Someone asked me if you had a button, so if you could turn off your bipolar, would you use it? I said, only if I could turn it on again, because there's bits of bipolar are fantastic.
Do you have a sense of how you've influenced
Only
cooking?
since when I came out of hospital for bipolar, and I realised that I did change the world of cooking, but I didn't realise I was doing it. Had I have known how hard it was going to be before I did it, would I have done it? I don't know.
Hello and welcome to Ways to Change the World. I'm Krishnan Guru-Murthy, and this is the podcast where we talk to extraordinary people about the big ideas in their lives and the events that have helped shape them. My guest today is Heston Blumenthal, one of the world's most influential chefs, known for combining cooking with science to transform the modern dining experience. The self-taught chef rose to international fame with the Fat Duck, his experimental restaurant in Berkshire that went on to earn 3 Michelin stars and was named #1 on the planet in 2005 by the world's 50 best restaurants. Renowned for imaginative dishes like snail porridge and bacon and egg ice cream, Heston has built a reputation for pushing culinary boundaries, exploring how memory, psychology, and the senses shape the way we taste food. He has also spoken about his own mental health. In 2017, he was diagnosed with ADHD, and in 2023 with bipolar disorder after being sectioned and spending 2 months in hospital. He's now an ambassador for the charity Bipolar UK. Heston, welcome.
Thank you.
If you could change the world in any way, how would you change it?
Oof. Well, one way would be, I think that everyone on this planet should have access to free drinking water, clean drinking water. Because the same amount of water exists now as it always has done on our planet. It's just the distribution has changed because of water companies selling water. And to give water back, one of the ways I thought of doing this was eating mindfully. So the more a mouthful of food you can value, you eat slower and you get more enjoyment out of food. So that means less food is produced, and that means less water is produced, and that water can then be used to feed the world, so to speak.
So eating mindfully is quite difficult to get your head around sometimes.
Yes.
What is it?
Well, it's being aware of what the food looks like, what it smells like, what your expectation is when you put it in your mouth. Maybe there's a story behind where the food comes from that you can make the story up, really. The classic one is a mindful raisin. So you've got one raisin.
I've done that.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
And one raisin then feels like instead of eating a whole handful of raisins in one go, you savour one.
For 10 minutes.
Have you done
and
it for 10?
And the taste changes as you do it. Yeah.
It changes while you're chewing. The texture changes, and you discover more about yourself in the process. But it's a hard thing to do to ask people to eat mindfully all the time. I mean, I forget it sometimes.
It is really difficult. I mean, it's really interesting you bring this up straight away, because I went on one of these, healthy eating retreats where they taught us about eating slowly and savouring your food and how much more enjoyment you get out of it.
Yes.
You do it for a bit, and then, I just had lunch and I bolted it again. You very, very quickly get back. I eat really, really quickly.
Yes.
And I don't really know why. Because when you do actually do the experiment, and I've done that raisin thing, where it totally changes its intensity as you eat it. And you come away thinking, yes, I should definitely do this with all my food.
Yes.
But it's not as simple as that.
No, I forget quite a lot. And I realise after I've bolted it down, I've bolted it down. And it's almost as if you need a little alarm clock to trigger before you start eating. But it does make a difference. Like I suppose when you mentioned about my bipolar, when I came out of hospital, I was on the medication. I put on a lot of weight, and down to the meds I was taking, which is quite common apparently. I've started to lose it, which is good, That's when I applied mindful eating more than I'd done before.
And have you, I hope you don't mind me asking, I mean, are you using the jabs to
Yes.
lose weight? Yeah.
I'm using the jabs, which also help, but I realised that they could be very damaging to the restaurant business.
Yes. Well, I mean, you've got a sort of a mindful menu
Yes.
at the Fat Duck.
Yes.
What do you think that really works? Because isn't the whole point of the jabs that it stops you wanting to eat?
You eat less. And I think it affects different people in different ways.
Has it taken away your enjoyment of food? That's what a lot of people fear.
No, I pick less. I mean, chefs are classic pickers. It's because they're used to working on their feet. So you just, rather than sitting down and eating, they'll pick. So it stops, well, from my experience, it stops me picking.
But you still eat a full meal?
Less so now. But for a full meal at home and a full meal out, the trouble is if you go out, sometimes very lovely people in the restaurant send out extra food. And I feel sort of guilty to it because I don't want to offend them.
But you don't want it.
If I don't want to.
But I mean, so much of your food experience is about all the senses and all the feelings that you get with food. Mm. Do you still have all of that?
Yes.
If you are on weight loss drugs?
Yes. Still have a sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of sight, sense of sound.
And pleasure and enjoyment.
I prefer, if I can share, so my wife and I will often share a starter. So there's less food on the plate.
Yeah.
And then I can enjoy it more.
And how are you? I mean, you've been very frank and open about what happened a couple of years ago.
Yes.
You effectively had a breakdown and were sectioned.
Yes.
How are you now?
A lot calmer. I made a documentary for the BBC on my bipolar, and they showed me a clip of a BBC program called BBC Click. And the presenter asked me a question, how are you? And I gave him 45 minutes of diatribe, basically, 45 minutes of how we learned to speak, how our ability to control our vocal cords was influenced heavily by cooking.
When you look back at the Heston you were...
Yes, like that clip from BBC Click.
What do you think?
Oh, my God. One, I couldn't believe I talked that quickly. I got so much information in. My body movements, everything was chaotic. But what I was saying, I still meant. It's just the rate that I was saying it.
How linked to, what you now know as ADHD and bipolar disorder, was all of that to the brilliance of your creativity?
I think, because I've thought about this before, I think it's a mixture of things. It's a mixture of bipolar, ADHD. Also, I was in a tiny kitchen, which made me look more at the science of cooking, how I could control the precision and the consistency of things in such a small space. I was working 20 hours a day, so I was exhausted. I think all of these things together have made a difference, but I don't know if you look at particularly ADHD and bipolar. I do remember once lighting a blowtorch, going to light a blowtorch to caramelize a lemon tart. So lemon tart, sprinkle sugar on the top, you light the blowtorch and you caramelize the sugar. So I sprinkled the sugar on the top, and then I went to get the blowtorch. I turned the gas on, and I went to the tap, the sink, and I turned on the hot tap. And I remember thinking, I can't possibly light a blowtorch with cold water. It has to be hot water. And then realised, what was I doing? It's like a proper Alice in Wonderland moment.
Brain was scrambled.
Yeah, scrambled.
So, but what I mean is, like, do you think your brain had to be running at 110 miles an hour for you to think about the things that you thought about as a chef.
Yes, I think so.
So there's a positivity to it.
Definitely.
And your life has benefited hugely from that neurodiversity.
Yes, someone asked me, if you had a button that you can turn on and turn off, so if you could turn off your bipolar, would you use it? I said, only if I could turn it on again. Because there's bits of bipolar are fantastic, and other bits are dangerous to me, and they can be to people around me. And the other side of it is also dangerous when you get through big depressive phases. But the middle bit is fantastic.
Did you always have the classic shape of bipolar, which is manic periods and depressive periods? Because obviously you've had a very high public profile.
Yes.
And you've been on TV, and no one would have known if you were in some sort of depressive trough.
No, well, I wasn't aware. It's only now looking back over the years, I can see I had there's more and more examples of symptoms of bipolar when I look back over the years. More than I remember. I just I had depressive periods of time when I look back at them, but I didn't look back at them as being depressive before I was hospitalised. And it might be because I've changed. I speak slower. I can sit longer in silence. It's given me more time to contemplate. And that contemplation has led me to realise there were, I had depressive periods when I was a teenager, late teens, let's say.
So you weren't actively covering it up. It's just because you weren't aware of it.
I wasn't aware of it.
Can we go back then to sort of early days? What do you remember about that first sort of thirst for knowledge around cookery, wanting to learn, wanting to create?
Well, we used to go as a family, we used to go to Cornwall for summer holidays. And one year my dad, his company made a bit of money, and he thought, we'll go abroad. So my sister and myself, my parents went to France. And he'd read about this 3 Michelin-starred restaurant. They'd never been to a 1 Michelin-starred restaurant, let alone 3. And of course, my sister and I didn't even know what that meant. So I had this experience in this restaurant in Provence, which sent me down the rabbit hole of inquisitiveness regarding food. And I remember sitting outside, there was the noise, soft noise of the crunching gravel under the feet of the waiters, intoxicating smell of lavender, the sound of the crickets. There was a cheese trolley the size of a chariot, wine lists like the size of a billboard. They were pouring sauces into soufflés, carving legs of lamb at the table. And that's it. I was hooked.
So how did you decide to pursue it?
Well, after then, so I was about 18 then, 17, something like that. And I bought a couple of French cookbooks, the great chefs of France, but I couldn't speak French. So I translated them word for word with the French-English dictionary. And then I started cooking out of them. And every year we'd go to France and I'd save up money and blow it on, say, 3 restaurants. 6 months of saving. And then I'd have more books and I would do more cooking. And I would take one dish, like a vanilla ice cream, and have in my mind the most enjoyable vanilla ice cream I've eaten in one of these restaurants and try and replicate it. And at the same time, there was a book out by an American guy called Harold McGee, which was about the food and cooking, science and law of the kitchen. So I bought that. And in that book, he said browning meat doesn't keep in the juices, which flew in the face of every chef that I'd heard speak or write down. You seal the meat, but you can't seal the juices in, because when you put a steak in a hot pan, it sizzles, there's water coming out, and a well-done piece of steak shrinks, the water's come out. So once I read that, it's a bit like finding out Father Christmas isn't real. I absolutely thought, my God, if this isn't true, how many other things that I've read aren't true? And that's where I got my sort of life motto from, which is question everything.
And why didn't you decide to go to, down the normal route of either, formal cookery school or going to, work for, the sort of the list of restaurants that chefs normally do?
I did 1 week at the Manoir with Raymond Blanc, and decided that what I wanted to do was make money first, and then get myself a restaurant. But as the years went by, I did various jobs, from selling photocopiers to working for my old man on accounts, basic bookkeeping. And then it became evident that I wasn't driven by money. So rather than having the restaurant that I could imagine I wanted, we sold our cottage, moved in with my parents, and started looking for a site, and found this old rundown pub in Bray. Borrowed some money from my old man, and then got a mortgage from the bank. My friends helped me do the refit of, painting the walls and just polishing up the floor. And then that was it. Fat Duck was open 1995.
And why did you feel you didn't need to learn from the greats? Was it, were you already convinced by that stage that you wanted to do something different?
Yes, but I still learned. I learned from the greats, from their cookbooks, and going and eating in their restaurants. And I think that was a really big thing for me, being able to go and eat and observe, and then read the book.
How do you feel about the sort of the elitism around food? I mean, you say you had to save up for 6 months to go to 3 great restaurants.
Yes.
In France. Top restaurants are the preserve of people with money to burn these days. You're talking £200, £300, £400 a head.
Yes.
In a lot of places. I mean, it's just kind of absurd money. Is it necessary? Is it worth it? And is it right?
Well, firstly, it depends on the restaurant. Is it right? The cost of producing. So it's like, let's say the Fat Duck. We do 36 to 40 customers, and we have a team of 70 to serve those people. So if you add all of that up, plus the food costs, it's expensive. Yes, it is. And it's not somewhere that you go to once a week or once a month at all. But however, you've had something handmade for you completely, and then hopefully it'll be lasting in your memory for a long time.
It's sort of a lifetime experience for some people.
Yes. Yes, and we get a surprising amount of younger people coming in that must save up as well.
Yes, I mean it's a thing. I mean, I went on my wedding anniversary.
Oh, did you?
And it was a great experience. But it's one of those things where it's an experience for a one-off, for life almost.
Yes, it's not meant to be, as I said, a weekly.
But I mean, obviously, it's out of reach for most people, isn't it? Do you think that's right? Is it or do you think it's possible to bring some of what you do and create to the masses, if you like?
Well, we've got next door we've got the Hind's Head.
The pub.
the pub,
Yeah.
which has a Michelin star, and there's snippets of the fat duck in there, just so you can get just a little taste. But the sheer cost of producing the food and the dishes that we produce at the duck, you can't replicate that unless you get a lot of robots, which I still don't think would do the job.
And how much is the sort of the raw material, and how much is the people cost? Because obviously raw materials are going up as well, aren't they? I mean, food costs are going up, and they will continue going up this year.
Massively. You're looking at probably people costs being is the biggest by far, the biggest expenditure.
And do you feel now, particularly now that you're on the medication, do you feel like you're as creative, or has it changed you that much?
I still have my creativity. Before, I was interrupting myself with ideas, which wasn't necessarily that beneficial because things wouldn't get done.
Well, because there was so much going on in your head.
So much going on in my head, yeah.
If you think back to sort of, the bacon and egg ice cream, then, what is the story behind that creation and how long it took?
Okay, right, you ready for this?
Well, give me the truncated version.
Okay, first imagine making a cup of coffee with 1 coffee bean and a cup of water. But you grind the coffee bean, cup of water, drink it, it'll be insipid. If you have the cup of water, drink it, but take the coffee bean and crunch the coffee bean, you're going to get a much bigger explosion of coffee than you would do if the coffee bean was ground. So that I called flavour encapsulation. So you get little globules or little pellets of flavour that burst. So bank that to one side. I was looking at making vanilla ice cream, and I found ice creams to be eggy quite often. And I didn't want that eggy taste in ice creams. So I looked at what was happening, and in traditional cuisine, you're told to cook the custard until it coats the back of a spoon when you draw your finger across it. But that's 80-something degrees, and egg yolks coagulate at 70. So you're overcooking the egg yolks, which means the egg yolk proteins form clumps, although you can't really see them. So you get bursts of egg, and that's why it tastes eggy. So we reduced the temperature of the ice cream, cooking the ice cream, so it lost the egginess. Then I thought, what happens if I scramble eggs, puree them, and make a custard? So I make a custard with scrambled eggs. And it tasted so eggy, it reminded me of breakfast. So that was basically where the egg and bacon, and then bacon followed naturally.
And how long did that whole process take?
A couple of years.
And that's quite the norm for a lot of your ideas, isn't it? A couple of years.
Yeah.
So now that everything has slowed down for you now, how long is a Heston idea going to take? Is it going to take longer, or is it the same amount?
Maybe even longer. At the moment, I'm fascinated by our microbiome. So what the effects that the food has on our well-being. Yeah. And I'd say that I'm in the business of emotion. I just happen to use food cooking as a mechanism or medium for that. And triggering memory, nostalgia, things like that, playfulness, maybe adventure, discovery, those sorts of emotions. There's lots of research been done on what we eat, how it affects our microbes, and how the microbes then affect our mood, and the effect they can have on things like bipolar, but also works the other way. Your emotional state when you eat has an effect on your microbiome, which also affects your mood in turn. So if you eat when you're angry, you eat when you're sad, you eat when you're happy, it has a completely different effect. So I'm looking at that.
That's going to give a whole new meaning just to the idea of a wellness menu, isn't it?
Yes, but it might take some time.
But it feels like we're just beginning to understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
That actually the gut affects your physical and mental well-being.
Yes.
And, we people started taking,
Enemas.
capsules full of bacteria.
Yes.
To try and make themselves feel better, and it quite often works, I think.
Yeah.
But we don't really know why or how to control it.
Yeah.
It's a very uncontrolled experience. You just pop a pill and hope.
Yeah. There's more bacteria in our guts than planets in the universe.
And do you think you could start to identify what influences different emotions or feelings?
Not yet, but it will happen.
And is that your aim, or is that?
I'd like to be part of it.
Is that beyond cookery and is more science?
It's more science, but I think it's the convergence of the two things that interest me.
What do you feel about things like mushrooms and psilocybin? There's been a lot of research recently on microdosing.
Yes.
And the impact on mental health in particular.
A lot.
Is that something you're interested in?
I am. I've read a bit about it. I've seen some TED Talks on it. And it's meant to help with a lot of things. I think depression and stuff like that.
Anxiety, OCD, all of those sorts of things.
All of those sorts of things, yeah.
I mean, you've done a lot of the science by yourself. It doesn't seem like we have a infrastructure that actually brings together the thing that we all do a huge amount of, which is eat, and the science around what it's doing to us. That seems like a massive sort of gap.
It is. In fact, the TV stuff that I've done, most of it, has given me access to research centres and been able to tap into, for example, we did a program on chili con carne for the BBC years ago, and wanted to know why is chili addictive. We put my head chef at the time. I couldn't go in the machine. It's an MRI scanner because I just had a back operation with the metal hadn't embedded in to my back yet, and he volunteered to go in the scanner. And we drip fed him chili oil and brain scanned him. And what happened was the part of the brain that controls pain got lit up. And then when the chili hit went down, the part of the brain that controls pleasure, that lit up. So everyone has their own chili thresholds. It's when it comes down below when the pain is bearable, your body releases a lot of endorphins. So you get this rush, this hit of pleasure. So that's to get access to an MRI scanner to be able to do that experiment without the television program would have been very difficult.
I mean, there are other people now doing what you've done. I mean,
Yes.
you've kind of changed the way people think about food research in many ways.
Yes.
I mean, are you aware of who is doing the most exciting work? Who's kind of taking on?
No, not yet.
And how much do you want to do now? Has your life changed dramatically in terms of your sense of ambition and drive? Or do you still feel like you've got a lot to do?
I feel like I've got a lot to do, but I don't know yet which direction to go in. So on the research side, with anything sensorial, so multi-sensory, how what you see can affect what you taste, what you hear can affect what you taste, and how the senses influence each other, which I think is fascinating. I see myself as a walking experiment. So the idea that how do I feel when this is happening? Obviously, I need to be aware in order for that to work.
Can you give me an example of where that triggers people?
Yes, quite a few. So, for example, if you're drinking a cup of coffee with a bit of milk or a glass of wine, you write the word coffee or wine, depending on the drink, write it in balloon letters, so everything's rounded. There's no corners or sharp edges. Coffee, and then write coffee on another piece of paper in really sharp letters, and do the same with wine. In the same hand, have a sip looking at the coffee or the wine written in soft, round, balloon-like letters, and then have another sip looking at sharp letters, and it tastes sharper when you look at the sharp letters. It's a great experiment to do. You think no,
You could do it yourself.
Yeah, you can do it yourself.
And so, do you think the ideal restaurant experience is visual, sound, smell?
Yes.
A completely curated experience.
Yes. Is that the ideal one? I'm not sure if it's ideal, but it's a wonderful experience.
Does it exist?
No. There's bits at the Duck. So the sound of the sea, where you listen to the waves lapping up against the shore while you're eating something that looks like waves lapping up against the shore.
Who does that work with? Because some people, I'm sure, sit down and they hear the sound of the waves and they say, it doesn't do anything for me. But other people will be very moved by it.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense of why it affects some people and why not?
Well, everyone's relationship with food is unique. And sound and smell are the biggest trigger of memory. So most people have been to the sea in their lives and will have a memory about it. If you have waves crashing waves with a foghorn in the background, it's going to trigger some memories for some people, not others. But if it's just a generic waves lapping up against the shore, most people will have a memory about that, and it will transport them back to their own memory.
And had you sort of experimented with large groups of people? Had you done a sort of a clinical trial type thing, before doing that, or was it just worked for you?
I did some trials with Oxford University, a guy called Charles Spence, and we did with the bacon and egg ice cream. We got two groups of people, and one group, they were both served the same bacon and egg ice cream, but one group listened to a chicken clucking, and the other one listened to sizzling bacon. And the group that listened to sizzling bacon, the bacon flavour was higher. The group that listened to the chicken clucking, the eggy flavour was higher.
That's amazing.
Which is quite a strong effect as well.
And in terms of what you want to do now as well, I mean, you said at the beginning of your career you discovered you weren't as driven by money as you thought you might be. The business of restaurants is tough, and we've seen dinner. The restaurants in central London is shutting down.
Yeah.
Do you find the business side of it, engaging? Do you want to do that, or do you really just want to cook?
I want to cook.
But what I mean is, in terms of, where does that leave you as a chef and as a businessman? It is difficult to do both, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I've always run, if I take the Duck, if I've within reason, if I've wanted or needed something, buy it and then work out how to pay for it afterwards, which is not the way an accountant would do it. But it's happened to have worked.
And what about in London? I mean, there was a story recently in The Guardian about the shutting down of the restaurant. Don't know how much of it is true or not. But how difficult is it as a business to keep things on the road and to keep people, you know, famously chefs, and it's a matter of drama and legend. You know, it's an up and down business, tempers flare, people fall out. Does it have to be that way?
No, it doesn't. And I'd like to think it's changed a lot in kitchens over the last few years. There's a lot less shouting and flaring up than there used to be.
Were you shouting in the kitchen?
No.
No.
I was exhausted, but no, not shouting. And in the Mandarin, the article in the Guardian wasn't correct. In the Mandarin, we decided that our term of we were a tenant in the property was basically expired. So we've extended it for 6 months. And we've had a great relationship with the hotel. We couldn't have actually had the success of the Mandarin without that relationship.
And do you want to do another one like that? A big, glossy restaurant in central London?
I don't know yet. We've got some potential offers, but I'm not sure.
Isn't it an exhausting thought? Everyone I've ever met who ever ran restaurants was sort of right on the edge all the time.
Yes, it's exhausting.
Doesn't sound very appealing. I mean, what do you say to people who have the dream of doing that?
Well, I had a dream of doing it. Then when I opened the Duck, it was my first paid job as a chef. And I had no idea it was going to be so tough. This is where being self-taught is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, I didn't have the confinements of the traditions of classical French cooking, for example. But on the other side of things, in terms of organisation skills, like ordering and stuff like that, I didn't have a clue. So that's why it took me longer than chefs that have had training to be able to get it up to speed, have it run in an organised fashion. So had I have known how hard it was going to be before I did it, would I have done it? I don't know. I mean, it's easy to say sitting here now, yes, I would have done, but it was horrendously exhausting.
But I mean, it was an enormous achievement as well, because the success of the Fat Duck led to your public profile, led to TV,
yes,
led to the spreading of this whole idea around science, led to loads of people buying blowtorches, and trying to do creative things in their kitchens.
Yes,
that's a Do you have a sense of how you've influenced
only
cooking?
Since when I came out of hospital for bipolar, I had a chance to reflect, and I realised, I could say this now, I could never have said it before because I never thought about it before, that I did change the world of cooking. From this little contained kitchen in Bray, but I didn't realise I was doing it at all. So in terms of looking back, because it's 30 years we've been going, so everyone has a legacy, but having a legacy that had that impact, has it been worth it? Yes, I have to say yes.
And how do you feel about that legacy? I mean, is pride something you feel, or?
I feel more proud now than I have done before.
That's very qualified.
Yes.
What's your ambition now, at this stage in your life? Do you think you can still have a big impact on the way we think about food? Because what you're looking at now is it's another big turn.
Yeah, it's a good question, because I never thought I'd have an impact. And even when I was sort of, those periods of exhaustion years ago, I thought, when I opened the duck, I thought maybe one day I might get a Michelin star. I had no idea about 3 stars. So I sort of jumped in feet and hands first, and just cooked. And then once I started, I was stuck. And had I have had a choice at that time to get out of the kitchen, I probably would have done for a bit earlier than my levels of exhaustion, if that makes sense. But I never thought that I would have this effect on the world of food and cooking. Having known that I've had an effect makes it more difficult to have that as an ambition.
Yeah. Because you've already done something really big.
I've already done something quite big, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're also now involved, as you've said, in talking much more about bipolar, and you're involved with Bipolar UK. Do you want to do big things there, or is that?
I definitely want to help with the stigma, the people, the process of diagnosis, and the stigma that surrounds bipolar, and the people that live with people with bipolar, because that's something that people don't get. I mean, one is understanding bipolar itself, but the loved ones around that person, they all get affected, and it takes up to, I think it's 9 years for the NHS to get a diagnosis. At least once you've got a diagnosis, you can do something about it. But it's multiple times more likely for people to end their lives when they have bipolar and a mixture of bipolar and ADHD. So it's a big chunk of the population of Britain.
Some people find that the person who has called the police in the hospital,
Yes.
Done the sectioning, signed the paperwork.
Yes.
That relationship is very difficult to mend. How were you able to see it, more as?
Well, it was my wife.
Your wife saved your life.
She saved my life, and I had no idea bipolar. It never occurred to me. And so when we had this discussion not that long ago, actually. In her head, when she thought, he needs sectioning, got to do something about this. In her head, she thought he might never speak to me again. So that was a really big concern. In fact, when I got the diagnosis, I was surprised, but I was, I'd say, intrigued. Then I started reading about it, and it all sort of made sense. And I don't know if it was getting worse as I was getting older. I'm not sure.
How do you remove the stigma when you say that's what you want to do?
By talking about it, the response we got from the documentary that I made was massive. People with bipolar, people that live with people with bipolar, and you start to talk about it. There's a lot of people that have bipolar or have a relative with bipolar that don't want to talk about it. So if you can start talking about it, and some of the things that in the manic stage can be toe-curlingly funny. I mean, embarrassingly so. So you can share that with other people. It makes a difference.
So what would your advice be to people who might be friends, might be family, neighbours, about how they should handle it without treating it as something around which there's a stigma?
Contact Bipolar UK, because they have a helpline. That would be a start. My sister was told she was bipolar, but she refuted it. She said no, she didn't agree with it. If my wife hadn't have had me sectioned, then I wouldn't be here today.
Because the hospital told you were...
Yeah, it was a couple of days away.
Days away from death.
Yeah.
And I suppose, I mean, do you think it's your sort of scientific brain that has helped you embrace it, if you like?
I think so. I've done
Your curiosity.
Curiosity. I think I've done a lot of research, and definitely the medication has helped. Although at the beginning, when I put on a lot of weight. Secondly, my balance. I was going to get vertigo. My balance started to go. But then monthly visits to the hospital to be checked up on, and then the medication gets tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. So things they're getting better and better.
And so do you feel yourself now?
Well, that's a good question because I don't know what myself is. I mean, I'm still me. I'm just a less manic version of me, I'd say.
And that's good.
I think so. Yes, it's good. It's good.
Heston Blumenthal, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. You can watch all of these interviews on the Channel 4 News YouTube channel. Until next time, bye-bye.